You have to be brave. A little hint of mischief, just kind of be a little bit bold about it. Just go for it. I'm too old for this. Like, I can't do another ski season, but why not? Like, life is short. You never know what's around the corner. And, you know, when you're able, and we have so much opportunity around us these days, I think just take the risk. Yeah, I was feeling stuck in a rut in my job, needed like a new challenge, and just saw this Ireland's Call to Kilimanjaro. I didn't think long enough I didn't let myself dwell on it to back out of it. I just was like, do you know what? I need a challenge. I need a goal. Fuck it. Look, this is to complement your prescription. I'm not saying don't take the tablets, but also let's not give all the power to the pills either. And she's 97 years old. Like, we're never too old to learn new tricks. Tell them to ask themselves, what are they really afraid of? Like, stop saying it's so hard. Stop moaning and just change the story. Like, change your perspective of what you're looking at. And the best way to do something like that, I think, is
Series 8 of the Dig podcast. I can't believe it, guys. We are over 250,000 downloads. The growth of the podcast has been amazing. But I just have one thing I'm asking of you guys today. If you love listening to the Dig podcast and you love all the new guests each week, then I'm asking if you could hit subscribe or follow. So if you listen on Apple or Spotify, if you could hit follow, and if you watch on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. It means the podcast reaches more people. When I reach out, people actually have heard of the Dig podcast, they know about it, and they're more willing to be a guest, and then I'm able to bring even more actionable advice to you guys. So it's really it really helps the podcast grow. So I'm asking for your help on that point today, and I just can't wait to dive into this series, and I can't wait for you to hear from our next guest. Welcome to this week's episode of the Dig podcast. So how does it is the first time a ski instructor has been on the Dig podcast. How does a ski instructor, someone who hits the slope, end up on the Dig podcast? Well, you're going to find out today. So I am speaking to Liz O'Hagan, who is a community pharmacist trained in Integrative and Lifestyle Health at Meaghers Pharmacy Group. So we have lots of different elements to the podcast today, and I know you're going to get so much value from them all. But integrative health is something that I think we're all becoming more aware of, but Meaghers Pharmacy are definitely bringing that to the fore in their work, in their pharmacies, and through this new pharmacist, Liz, that has joined the team there back in September, I think it was. But Liz wasn't always in Meaghers. She was a ski instructor just before COVID. She lived out her dreams of hitting the slopes in Austria, and there's a message in all of that too, where she didn't, she followed her dreams and she took that step of travel and adventure, but that the healthcare world, I suppose, was always calling, and I guess we all have that kind of something we're pulled towards, and hopefully that's where we all do end up doing what we love. But she definitely is. We're going to hear today in the podcast how, like a lot of people, Liz was not coping well with her position that she was in, because she had all these ideas and ambitions and drive, and just wasn't feeling that she could do all of those in the job that she was in, even though she loved the job and the people so much. Like, we've all been pulled in those directions so many times by not feeling fulfilled, but loving the people that we're with and loving the job. So, I think so many people is going to be able to resonate with that. I've already spoken to her, obviously, before we've came on, and I always know the story. So I know what you guys are going to want to know. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And, do you stay in a role that doesn't fulfill you, or do you take the leap? How do you take the leap? All those questions I am going to ask Liz today. Liz, the ski slopes in Austria to Meaghers Pharmacy. Welcome to the Dig podcast.
Hi, Caroline. How are you?
I'm good. It's so good to meet you. And I keep saying in real life, even though we're still virtual, but it's lovely to see your face and to have you here. And, we were talking all about your journey before. And, for people who are listening, I explained to you, everybody who listens to the Dig podcast are people in the world of work who, not necessarily business owners, but people who are in employment, that stage of their life, and are kind of trying to learn how to do things better. Maybe they're at a crossroads. Maybe they're, just wanting other people's, experiences so they can learn from them. So I think there's so much in what you have done that they're going to learn from. So yes, Meaghers Pharmacy are the partner of Series 8, but, there's stories behind everybody that works everywhere. So tell us, how did that all start, and how did you end up on the ski slopes?
Yeah, it was mad. I studied pharmacy in RCSI back in, I qualified in 2011, and I always wanted to do a ski season. So at that time, as soon as I qualified, I went off to France and became a chalet host in the French Alps. So I was skiing by day and working at night and in the mornings, and it was a great experience. But I was very lucky to have pharmacy to come home to. And as a pharmacist, you can locum a bit. So would work as a pharmacist all summer, and then go back when the snow came back. I would go back to the mountains and do another winter. So I did that for 3 winters for 3 years on and off, and then decided it was time for the real world, settle down and, be a real adult. So I worked among various pharmacies. For about 5 years, I was supervising a pharmacy out in Stamullen, which is close to where I'm from. And that's in County Meath, but I'm from County Dublin. Important in the football.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, but it was a great place, but it was very close to home, and I kind of felt a little bit stuck in a rut and wasn't sure, it was a little bit much for the age I was at and what I wanted, my kind of ambition. So I left that, but found it very hard to leave. And a dream of mine had always been to try out e-instructing. So I just signed up for a course in Austria, which was done through German, which I had never spoken before. I did French in school, so that was another challenge. I used Spotify, Coffee Break German on Spotify to try to get some of the language together. And I went off in end of October, November 2019, and did a course over in Capron in Austria on the glacier, and qualified there. Started teaching skiing all over that Christmas, and it led into 2020. We all know what happened then. March 2020 came and COVID hit, and I returned home. 14th of March, flew home, and it was all very strange and scary, and I was back living with my parents. So even coming home to the house, I was nervous. I was going to get them sick and what was going to happen. But anyway, I started working for a guy in Navan, Joe Stockton.
Let's jump in before you talk about that part. So I did some work recently with the University of Ulster, up here, and with students at that crucial time of leaving university, going out into the world of work, and not really knowing the direction, still having dreams they want to fulfill, feeling they need to get stuck in that career. So I think, and a lot of them listen to the podcast now because I did some work with them. So there's definitely what do you feel you missed out on developing your career because you did that? You were able to do kind of a bit of both. What advice would you give to students that are listening that are perhaps thinking about something like this?
Yeah, I would say definitely go for it, because you develop yourself when you go abroad. All my ski seasons, well, the first time I did it, I was 23, just qualified. And for those 3 years, the people I met there, I have some incredible friends. You networked people, loads of my friends are based in the UK from those years. So never short of somewhere to stay. The opportunities it present, and even just your character development and putting yourself into a situation that you're nervous at the start, and then you grow and you learn things all along the way. And I did that for 3 years, and then I stopped for 5 years, and I was like, right, no, real world, here I come. But I still had this itch I hadn't scratched. And at this stage I was 31, I think. And I was like, oh, I am it's time. I'm too old for this. I can't do another ski season, but why not? I did it, and I loved it. And I've only learned more about myself and what I want in the process. I don't regret it for a second.
Yeah, so if there's anyone listening that's at that kind of trying to make that decision, maybe this is the sign that you need, that all will be well when you return, and that you'll have learnt and grew and developed so much more and everything. So I'm just listening, thinking of all the missed opportunities that I had whenever I left university, and wish except I had the fear factor that I know a lot of people have. I wish I had the podcast didn't even exist whenever I left university. So I wish
that someone told me what you're saying. So thank you for sharing that with us. And also you talked about, you looked on Facebook once and you just seen a post for climbing Kilimanjaro, and you seem like a risk taker in that way, that you want an experience, and not risk, but you're up for the adventure and what you can learn.
Yeah, so that was actually before the ski instructing thing. It actually led into it nicely without me realizing. I was feeling stuck in a rut in my job, needed like a new challenge, and just saw this Ireland's Call to Kilimanjaro, and it was the IRFU, so the Rugby Charitable Trust, and they were just looking for people to sign up and climb Kilimanjaro, and you had to do a fundraise beforehand and all that sort of stuff. So I didn't think long enough I didn't let myself dwell on it to back out of it. I just was like, do you know what? I need a challenge. I need a goal. Fuck it. And I remember it was such a mad moment. And then after I did it, I was like, what have I done here? Like, I've never done much hiking. Like, I'm really sporty. I love adventures and stuff, but I'd never actually climbed up a mountain. I'd always skied down them. So this was mad. And again, signing up completely on my own. But it was with a group called Earth Edge. I don't know if anyone's heard of it. They're absolutely brilliant, based in Ireland, and they run loads of these expeditions. And the best way to do something like that, I think, is on your own, because you'll always meet people, and you're kind of forced into conversations, even if you're a bit nervous at the start, which is totally natural. Like, you will be nervous. And we did all these training weekends coming up to Christmas of 2019. That was 2018, because we climbed Kilimanjaro in January 2019, and it was an incredible experience. And one of the team leaders, this lady who was approaching 60, she is from County Down, and she was actually a qualified ski instructor. So I spent so much picking her brains. She was like, yeah, I go out for a couple of weeks here and there over the years, like for high season, and it's a kind of way of a working holiday. Because I like skiing, as everyone knows, it's so expensive to go on a holiday. I was like, how can I find a way to be able to do this hobby that I love more? So when I came back from that trip, I was just so inspired by her. And that led me to kind of have a bit of guts. It was like the final catalyst I needed to research a course and book it. So that's how that led to that journey of going to Austria in the first place.
Because I recently did a podcast with a guy called Kingsley Aikens. I don't know if you've ever heard of Kingsley. So he talks about doors opening because you put yourself in a position to allow the doors and embrace an opportunity. And that sounds like that if you hadn't went there and done that, you mightn't have met that lady that actually gave you the guts to go ahead with ski. So anyway, I suppose I just wanted to dive a wee bit into that message, because so many people listening that maybe are at that kind of crossroads and not sure. So maybe that'll give them the inspiration. So thank you for sharing that. So you came home and then you started to work in a pharmacist during COVID, isn't that right? In a pharmacy.
Yeah, a pharmacy just outside Navan, a place called Johnstown, and it's Staunton's pharmacy. Like, so fond of them. Once you become part of the Staunton's family, I don't think you ever leave. But it was a very quiet pharmacy when I started, and COVID was such a strange time. Like, for so many of our customers, the pharmacy team were the only people that anyone was seeing face to face. So they'd come as far as the pharmacy and then straight back home. Especially for elderly people, like, I think our role really developed and grew, and people realised how much a pharmacist and the pharmacy team can support the patient. So it was an amazing time, and like, you really develop a special bond with all your customers during it. But I did see a pattern starting to emerge all through the pandemic, and it just never seemed to end. It just was this gradual increase in the prescribing of antidepressants and the diagnosis of type 2 diabetes. And so it was just this real lifestyle issues that were becoming very prominent. And it was kind of scary to be part of it, in that you're handing out prescriptions. And I really got to the point where I felt that tablets or medication alone was not enough. It isn't enough for a patient. And I was going to work listening to all these podcasts from other doctors. And I remember I'd half of Johnstown listening to Niall Breslin's Wake Up and Wind Down in the mornings and the evenings, just for some mindfulness. And I was writing out post-its of YouTube go on YouTube for yoga with Adrienne and different recommended things, but it was very unstructured and it was a little bit flippant, I suppose, looking back. But like I'd be searching for a podcast about nutrition and like how to help someone, where to start with healthy nutrition, just for education resources that were reliable, because there's so much out there. It can be really hard to actually find something that you know is evidence-based. So anyway, that was the pattern of things I was seeing, and I really felt I wanted to improve my own knowledge and my own skills, especially when it came to counselling with lifestyle factors. So another string of pearls now from the trip to Kilimanjaro is a friend of mine, Anne-Marie, that I met on that trip. She's now one of my best friends. She heard me talking all about this, and she works in healthcare as well. And she was like, oh, my sister Sarah is about to sign up to a course that sounds kind of along the lines of what you're talking about. So poor Sarah did all the research and I jumped on the bandwagon. But I would never have found it because it was the University of Arizona. It's the Andrew Weil Center for Integrative Medicine. And they had an online program called Integrative Health and Lifestyle. And it was about 6 months long, all online. And what I loved about it is you actually had to be a healthcare professional to sign on to it, to enroll in the course. It just gave me I felt like they really are evidence-based, and I just felt like I trusted their information and the teachings that they were going to offer. So I started that in January 2021, and it was really transformative, like both personally and for my job and my profession. I learned so much about mindfulness, and I would very much, people would talk about meditation, and I always loved the idea of it, but felt a bit like this imposter that I don't know how to do that. I don't, what do I do? Even with yoga, I was happy to try a YouTube video in my living room, but I didn't feel like I was a yoga person. I was I'm not, I didn't grow up like that, and it was just very new, and I felt a bit, I don't know, like an outsider or something. I wanted to do it, but a bit nervous to kind of engage. So this course was brilliant because I just learned so much about, the health benefits from all these things, from stress management and even just your core values and, why you want to be healthy in the first place, and your whole, all the choices you make throughout the day, from a good morning routine to a wind down routine in the evening, how it all impacts your health so much. So everything they taught, all about integrative medicine is about looking at the whole person. So it's this holistic approach to health where you're including conventional medicine, so Western medicine, but also being open to complementary therapies and alternative medicine as well. And there's a huge emphasis on lifestyle factors in integrative medicine. And that's why I loved it so much and just saw such benefit to it.
Recently, I've been doing some research on different conditions, family, things that are going on in different health conditions online, and it's very hard sometimes to find the right information. And definitely my go-to now is Meaghers Pharmacy. I found Meaghers online during COVID actually, and started to follow the owner Una and all the unreal advice she was given for everyday issues that we all experience, educating us on things that are going on in everyday life, but we just don't know the facts and how to treat those things and how to, what we should be doing, and just unbelievable education really. And that started my relationship with Meaghers way back a few years ago, and we're absolutely delighted that they're now the partner for the Dig podcast, and you're going to hear a little bit more about them today.
At Meaghers, we believe that an integrative approach to healthcare is key to supporting your overall health and well-being. Looking at our health as a jigsaw and considering a variety of different pieces such as sleep, nutrition, movement and stress management can be incredibly beneficial. Lifestyle choices have a huge impact on our health, and small changes can make a big difference. For more information and support regarding these key areas of your health, you can visit us online at meaghers.ie for blogs and content, or you can visit us on our social media, and of course our in-store teams are always on hand to offer expert advice. And don't forget that we also ship to Northern Ireland, and you can enjoy 15% off all full price items on mars.ie with the code DIG15. All orders are packed with care in our busy Dublin warehouse.
Thank you so much for that, Una. And now back to our guest on the Dig podcast.
So whenever, and obviously then you were wanting to roll this out in some way in your working life, but you were feeling stuck, like you couldn't get that in action. Isn't that right?
Yeah, well, first of all, I was like doing a pilot run almost without realising in the pharmacy I was in. So part of the course, there was a graduation project at the end of it, and I chose to do patient information leaflet. So I just had to pick a few topics and create these like little handouts. So I kind of molded them and developed them into something that I wanted to use in my work. So for example, if someone came in their first time getting a prescription for a sleeping tablet, I had this little A4 page that said lifestyle tips for restful sleep. And if someone came in they were stressed or anti-anxiety medicine, I had a page on breathing exercises with 3 little easy to follow breathing exercises. And you could run through that and just say like, look, this is to complement your prescription. I'm not saying don't take the tablet, but also let's not give all the power to the pills either. And let's try this. If you try these in conjunction with each other, you'll get a much better outcome. And then in time, when you get more confident at breathing exercises and how to, relax your nervous system, kind of empowers the patient. I also had one on nutrition, like just very simple bullet points, like where to start with healthy nutrition. And similarly, one for exercise and movement, where to start. And I would try link a website at the end to something, or maybe a podcast or something to like for more information, or if you'd like to know a bit more, give this a listen or try this. And I was just rolling it out with the customers in that shop, and the feedback was incredible. Like people were just so hungry for the knowledge of it and really eager to hear more and learn more. Now, there were other people that just, you offer to them and it's not going to get read, and that's okay. But I felt as a pharmacist, you can't go out and spend time with every single customer as much as we want to. Like in an ideal world, you would, but you have to be practical as well. But I felt by at least offering this advice, I felt like I'd given them a better service that they deserved, and just the information to learn more if they want it. Like I said, the feedback was amazing. People, it's funny because in pharmacy, kind of people think, oh, you're kind of getting people off their medication. I'm like, well, we're a healthcare industry. We want people to be healthy. But like from a business point of view, people are like, oh, but that won't bring in profit. I'm like, well, I can tell you that shop was just getting busier and busier because the reputation of like this customer service based, we like not just me, the whole team that worked there, customers came from other shops to our shop because the reputation had grown so much and they knew they were going to get minded and well looked after. So that's where I was. I was only ever meant to stay in that job for the first summer of 2020. That was my plan. But sure, COVID just kept going on, and then I got my hands into the place, and I did love it. But as I said, I did feel I got to the point where I felt like I had a bigger voice. I felt like I had done my service in Johnstown. I kind of brought it to where I could get it to. And for me to kind of grow in myself with these ideas that I had, I wanted a bigger ripple effect. And I wasn't sure what to do, to be honest. I was just starting to feel quite stressed in myself and was getting a little bit upset some days because I just didn't really know where to go to. And it was just, I think I needed to be in a bigger team where, the pharmacist duties were a bit more shared out, because I couldn't do the integrative health stuff plus the supervising role I was in. I just couldn't do it all. So then I went to, it was, I think, my third time going to a Jerry Hussey event, which I can't recommend enough. And when it was, he's so motivational. Like, if you haven't heard of him, well, you will hear from Caroline.
Yes. I don't know the schedule of when these are going out, but I just spoken to him this morning for the first time, and I told him about you, So I don't know if the listener of the Dig podcast has heard him yet. I'm not sure what way these are going out, but regardless, hear his knowledge. My God, he's changed my life in an hour and a half, never mind going to that event. So tell us what happened when you went there.
Yeah, so his wife, Miriam Hussey, she was actually 3 years above me in RCSI. And when the show was over, I went up to say hello to her. Not that she probably wouldn't know who I am, but she's very nice and I wanted to congratulate her on all the work they've done. And I started talking to her about my job and how the course I had done and my ideas, but how I was feeling stuck and everything so hard and didn't know how to get it moving. And then it was like a slap in the face, like, fair play to her. She literally was like, stop. Like, you need to change your story. Like, stop saying it's so hard. And she's so blunt. I was like, oh my gosh. But it was what I needed. Like, it was just stop moaning and just change the story. Like, change your perspective of what you're looking at. And she actually mentioned Una O'Hagan's name. And my surname is O'Hagan as well. My mum's from Tyrone. Both my parents' surnames were actually O'Hagan before they met, but they assured me they weren't related. And but Una has been on my radar. You know, I've known who she is. I've known about Meaghers Pharmacy. And I always did kind of think, oh, maybe I should approach her because I could see her doing things online and the platform she had and just really agreed with a lot of things I saw her doing and saying. So Miriam Hussey actually that day was like, but you know, reach out to someone like Una. I was like, yeah, maybe I should. And a couple of days later, it was a Tuesday night and I came home again, not feeling very happy in myself after work, just felt like I was stuck in the mud, so torn between like not wanting to let my team down if I left them and the customers. And maybe that's big-headed of me to say, but we really were such a tight unit, especially after coming through the pandemic together. But I knew it wasn't what I needed. So I slid into Una O'Hagan's DMs on Instagram, as you do.
How the hell do you even do that? She is some woman. How does she even manage those DMs?
I have no idea. She's amazing. But it was such a long message. I think it was 3 messages long on Instagram. And I went to bed. Like, I sent it maybe 9:30 at night and I went to bed. And the next morning I woke up and she had replied with like 2 or 3 voice messages. And it was just like, oh my God, I totally love what you're saying. Sounds exactly like the type of stuff we're trying to promote and get out there. And I'd love to meet you. And I'd only asked her like if she'd any guidance or advice. So I wasn't actually going, do you have a job for me? But like at this stage, I didn't even know what type of job I wanted because I was like, who's going to pay me for this integrative health stuff? Like, you know, I'm trying to juggle that on top of being a pharmacist, but how do I do both? And I met her, we met about a month later, and within an hour of meeting, like she had texted me being like, I really want like to see if there's an opportunity for you to join our team, and like, please just let's keep in touch and we'll get the ball rolling on this, because we were singing off the same hymn sheet. And like I showed her all the leaflets I'd been using. I presented her with, I had a business plan in my head for the previous job I was in, but I also didn't really know how to execute it. Like I didn't really have that type of team around me at the time to be able to concentrate on that. And yeah, I showed it all to Una. She was like, this is amazing. I love it. And she's like, we can make this happen. I was like, really? And then, yeah, sure. I gave my previous job like 3 months notice, because like I weaned it down very slowly, because that's how much like we're very tight knit team there. And then I started in Meaghers mid-September, and 1 day a week I work on this integrative health stuff, and we have loads of stuff working in the background, almost ready for launching, which is very exciting.
Can we just talk about that? So stepping outside your comfort zone and sending someone an email, a message on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, what would you say to people that are perhaps ignoring the possibility of an opportunity because they're afraid to do that?
Like I would tell them to ask themselves, what are they really afraid of? Because like if I had sent her a message and she didn't reply, like what about it? She didn't reply. Like the world hasn't ended. You know, that's probably the worst thing that could have happened there. You know, you have to just go for it. And like I remember reading a book, Mary Robinson's book, and she said, like when you're doing things like that, you have to be brave, but also a little bit bold. Like, so this little hint of mischief, just kind of be a little bit bold about it and just go for it.
I know, and there's going to be so many people taking to the keyboard, taking to their phones when they're listening to this. But I guess, you know, like the guy Kingsley as well talked about that. Like, you only know people, you can get to know people through people you know, and they won't know you unless you reach out. So it's just like a big circle, but it's about having the confidence, I suppose. But look what can happen. Look at this opportunity. So I suppose if there's anybody listening and they have that email to send, or they're wanting to reach out to somebody, or and you're saying go for it, I'm saying go for it, and the world's not going to end. Like, I have sent in my time throughout all of my work so many messages to people and never heard a dicky bird. And at the start, you know, you do go through the feelings of a little bit offended and a little bit embarrassed and a little bit of cringe worthiness. But then you think, do you know what? They forgot all about that. They won't even remember that the next time I see them or whatever. Life is so busy, so just let's move on. So it's about just realising that the world's not going to end. So this is brilliant. So now you're part of the Meaghers Pharmacy team, and you're getting to live out your dreams of the integrative health. And so tell us about that, because part of the podcast series, Liz, is we want to try and get people in the world of work looking after themselves better. So you know, we're so busy, like we're flat to the mat, we're busier than we've ever been. People have never worked as hard, we're never off the computers, we're never off the phones, we're never stop working. And in turn, I know for myself, your overall well-being can slip. So what is integrative health and the 360 pharmacy 360? Is that what Meaghers Pharmacy are called? It's launched at the moment. When I put this out, it's going to be launched so we can talk about it freely.
Yeah, we're calling the project Pharmacy 360. So it's a 360 degree approach to a person, to their health. And there are 7 elements that we're going to touch on because they're all so important to our overall health. The first 4 are very, like, everyone talks about the 4 pillars of health, so we're pushing it out to 7. So the first one is sleep. Then we've got nutrition, and we've got our movement and exercise. Then we've got stress resilience. That's your stress management and how we kind of practice turning off that stress response. Then we've got relationship, and that's one that we often forget, but it's probably one of the most important. Well, they're all important, but you know, that sense of community, the relationship with yourself, the relationship with others around you, could be the relationship you have with a dog or a cat. But like, these are the things that bring us probably the most joy. And then we've got environment. So like, our internal environment and our external environment, are they in sync? Like, some of it's in our control, some of it's not, but just the acknowledgement of it and that it does play a role in our health is key. And then finally, the last one is core values. So this is one that a lot of people kind of are like, what is that now about? And this is the first thing that they taught us in our course. It was the first module. And the first task they gave us was we had to sit down and answer the question, why do I want to be healthy? And I'd never really thought of it before. It was like, but sure, everyone wants to be healthy. It's like, but why? And it's a really good little exercise to do every so often, because you start writing. It's like, well, I want to have energy to spend time with my family, or, you know, be able to play my sports, or want to be able to go on my holidays. I want to be able to go to work. Like, by the time you've finished writing this paragraph, your answer, you've actually written what's important to you. And then from that, you get the motivation to do all the other things, like to get your sleep at night, to eat the right food, to exercise, stretch out the body, you know, practice your breathing exercises if you're feeling a little bit flying off the handle. You know, it's the core values one, I think, is so important, because it's like your purpose, what makes you tick. And then if you know that purpose, you'll do anything to make it happen then.
And you know what? Like, there'll be people listening, and I'm just going to be honest, and they're going to think this is all very airy-fairy, and you work. Like, if I told my daddy this, he would just be like, you just work hard, you keep your head down, you don't lift it till the end of the day when you get into bed. Like, this is the way that I'd been brought up, like that work. And a lot of people, like in Ireland especially, like that work ethic of don't stop unless you, like, you know, unless you're stopped by someone. And then when you're taught that all your life, it's very hard to embrace these concepts. But
yeah,
I said to my daddy, though, you know, when you got home from work, Daddy, years ago, you actually did get to sit down and switch off from the outside world. But now the outside world gets us all the time. I like, my alarm for getting up in the morning is on my phone. And so I don't want to put my phone outside the room. And then I get the notifications and I get the bright light and I was like, life's different now, Daddy. It's not like I'm trying to educate Daddy. And I said, I listened to a boy in a podcast. He doesn't even know what a podcast is. But yeah, I just know that these pillars, this holistic approach for people in the world of work now is, I believe, so important, because I think, I know life's always been crazy and people have always worked hard, but I do believe we're in a different time now. Do you not? Like of mental stress, because I feel it everywhere around me. People can get me. They can get me on email. They can get me on Instagram. They can get me on Facebook. They can get me on Zoom. They can get me on podcast. I don't know. I feel it, and I feel like this is so important now. So in times gone by, Liz, I have to admit, I've never meditated. I've never written things down and hoped they've happened. I've barely slept because I thought I need to get up early to get to work early, work late at night. That's just how we are, I think, as a society. So this is amazing that you guys, Meaghers Pharmacy, and hopefully lots more pharmacy groups and lots more health professionals will teach us about this stuff. So what can we expect from you guys? What's going to happen?
So initially for the launch, we're going to pick a topic per month, and just, you know, a lot of pharmacy is about signposting to other services and linking, like building bridges to other therapies and services that are out there that often people don't know how to find. And I just think, because anybody can walk into a pharmacy without an appointment, we're just such a great place for, you know, a great portal to the rest of the healthcare system. So for each topic, we're going to hopefully get experts in that we can, you know, have discussions with. There'll be blogs, and in every pharmacy, all the Meaghers pharmacies, we're going to have a leaflet on each element. So that's going to be the main thing. You know, this is my little dream of my lifestyle leaflets coming to life, and that we'll pair and complement them to prescriptions. And the dream is that all the staff will be trained up on this. So it's not just about a pharmacist. It's not just about me. This is not just my project. This is like trying to get the ball rolling on a new movement. And, you know, that everyone from the front of shop, technicians, managers, pharmacists, everyone will feel confident in, like, well, here, like, if you want to sit down while you're waiting for your prescription, why don't you read through that? And if you have any questions, give us a shout. Have you ever tried a breathing exercise before? Do you want, let's give it a go. And actually, I have a funny story for you. Just a couple of weeks ago, this 97-year-old lady, she's an absolute legend. She was in for her blood pressure check because she wasn't feeling too well that morning. So before each blood pressure check, I was like to do a few deep breaths, you know, settle the heart rate. And sometimes when you ask someone to take a deep breath in, they go, and their shoulders rise and they pull their tummy in, which definitely doesn't allow more air into the lungs. It's the opposite way. But it's just something that if you say deep breath in, everything gets pulled in and up. So I was like, oh, hang on a second. I said, put your hands in your belly there and let's take a slow breath through the nose and feel your tummy get bigger. To try and make your tummy as big as possible. So we did this, and a long exhale slowly through the mouth. Did it 3 or 4 breaths of this, and we took her blood pressure again, and it actually had come down again, and her heart rate had decreased. And she went off kind of delighted with herself, and that was the end of that. Like a week or two later, she pops in and she's like, oh my gosh, I love those breathing exercises. I'm doing them all the time. I'm sleeping better. I just feel so relaxed after them. And she was just in her element. And she's 97 years old. Like, we're never too old to learn new tricks.
I know. And I used to be an occupational therapist, Leslie. Telling that before, so all the relaxation techniques we would have done, but I try to do that with my kids, and I see the benefit of that with them. Perhaps if there's like a tantrum or there's some kind of stress, I say, let's do our breathe, and I've taught them how to breathe. And like, I'm now living with my mum and dad because we're building our house, so they can hear me doing. My mum and dad, who are old school, would not know about breathing exercises, are like, what are you doing with them children down there? I'm like, Mummy and Dad, it worked. Like, they're quieting down. So it's just about education, isn't it? It's just about And the fact you guys are doing this is brilliant. So I suppose if you're listening to the podcast today with Liz, there's so much there in everything to do with our health and our wellness, but also all the brave steps that she took. Brave and bold. Is that what we want people to take away from today? Like, definitely. Yeah. And then you also said, like, you don't want any regrets, right? You have no regrets, like, on this path anyway. And people shouldn't live with regrets, right?
Yeah, just go for it. I mean, life is short. You never know what's around the corner. And, you know, when you're able, and we have so much opportunity around us these days, I think just take the risk.
So I want to thank Liz for being on the Dig podcast today. A very different podcast, all about wellness, but also everything we need to know about taking those bold steps and, you know, sending that DM, reaching out on LinkedIn, you know, taking the opportunities to meet new people that can lead to new things. It's all very exciting when you hear Liz talk about it and the opportunities and where she is now because she did that. So thank you for being on the Dig podcast. We can't wait to see Pharmacy 360 unfold and how we all can get involved in that and learn. Like, that's definitely something the Meaghers team are brilliant at. It's teaching us how to do all these things, not about the hard sell or anything, like just educating us on sleep and nutrition and movement. It's amazing what the team are doing, and I'm delighted to have them on board. And thank you, Liz. I hope to meet you soon in the future, hopefully over the next 10 weeks maybe. And thank you to everybody who listened on the Dig podcast today. And remember, if you subscribe on YouTube and if you follow on Apple and Spotify, if that's where you listen, that means that I can reach more people like Liz. So when I reach out, that people like Liz actually know what the Dig podcast is, and they say, oh yes, I've heard of that. I will do that interview, because that's what it takes for the growth. So that's a great support to me whenever you do that. So if you take that small action today, that would be amazing. Thank you for listening to another week, and I will see you next week on the Dig podcast.